What's your emergency?
Medic 28, ETA to Celebes. Medic 40 and Medic 28, ETA.
I'm going to do 40, same traffic. We just transferred.
Cleveland Medic 40, copy. The City of Cleveland's Emergency Medical Service Division, one of the country's first, from a crucial question. How can we improve the transport of accident and trauma victims, as well as individuals experiencing other medical emergencies, to the hospital? Over its first 50 years, Cleveland built a nationally recognized first responders unit that addressed this need. Hello, I'm Eleanor Hayes. EMS began with a team of 120, mostly Cleveland residents, who had minimal, if any, medical training. Today, it has transformed into a force of highly trained professionals. The story of EMS is one of family. Like all families, it has encountered growth, challenges, societal impacts, and the rewards in responding to the call for service.
I remember it like it was yesterday. It was late in the evening, and all of a sudden I heard this blood-curdling scream from our mother. And I got out of bed and ran into the bedroom, and here our father had a heart attack, a massive heart attack. He had fell, he had struck his head. I saw blood on the floor, and my mom shuttled me into the room and said, go into your sister's room. And our brother, Marty, was helping our mom trying to tend to our father. And the thing that was frustrating to us as a family, here we're in a major American city and we don't have an emergency medical service. And it took 52 minutes for the police to show up along with the private ambulance service, because back in the day, before there was EMS, it was a station wagon. It was Cleveland Police Department rolling up with the gurney. They didn't have the expertise that our amazing EMTs have today. And so they didn't know how to care for him. And that really frustrated our mom.
We're now mourning. He has a massive heart attack and he dies.
The father, the husband who died, was Michael Zone, a long-serving near West Side City councilman. He served in World War II and was a prisoner of war. He had health issues.
You know, at a time when our father desperately needed high-quality medical care, when he was a prisoner of war, he didn't have it. The reason that our father ultimately passed, sure, he fell down and we didn't have emergency medical service, and it took 52 minutes for an EMS service to get there, but he had 2 prior heart attacks to that. And he believed that it was a fundamental right that everyone deserved high-quality medical care.
But it was not his medical history. Rather, it was the prolonged length of time to get help to him that started the chain of events to answer the question, why does it take so long before we hear the sirens?
Unfortunately, the councilman's medical emergency and the delay of actually getting to the hospital was a large, local, visible issue, problem. But it happened at the same time that other things occurred that would allow us to make changes. Vietnam War. People would look at the TV and see medics taking care of people in the battlefield. You'd see them being put on helicopters and getting to a advanced care station very, very quickly. There were advertisements, and I have one somewhere at home in magazines that said, you can get better care in Vietnam than you can get on the highway in the United States.
George Shalupka was one of the original EMS employees.
You know, some fire departments, some funeral homes with that also staffed ambulances, and they were far and few between. So it was a very worrisome, let's say.
The city grieved with the Joneses over the loss of the popular councilman. However, it was not long before Cleveland power brokers strategized with his widow, Mary, to determine what was next. Council President George Forbes and political advisor Arnold Pinckney approached Mary, a mother of 9, to finish Michael's term in council.
And they come to the home and they're talking to my mom, and they're basically saying, we want you to finish Mike's term, because she was so invested and involved in the community, as you can imagine, all the stories. And so she said she would, under 2 conditions. She needed to talk to her children, her family, to make sure this was the right decision. And she also wanted to bring EMS to Cleveland through legislation, because other cities had EMS. We didn't have it. Every single council person signed on and supported it. Councilwoman Zone spent her city council summer break visiting other cities to learn their best practices. She went to Tampa, Columbus, and New York, which was establishing its EMS system.
And she came back with all this information, and in the fall of 74, she introduced and they passed the enabling legislation to create the emergency medical service. So this is fall of 74, and then a year later, fall of 75, October of 75 to be precise, we had the first graduating academy of EMS, and it's kind of why I'm wearing this shirt, my founder's shirt of 1975.
To bring the vision to life, Lee Nathans helped write a grant that got the city the money needed to start Cleveland EMS. He became the first director of the division.
It was my day off, but the opening was quite interesting because of the media coverage. They had reporters, I guess, everywhere, because the newspaper actually had a picture of the people on the first run, which was October 13th, 1975. I believe it was 9 a.m. This is the first call that came in, and they were dispatched on.
Federal government monies funded the city's first ambulances and hiring and training of the first employees under the Comprehensive Employment and Training Act, or CETA program, which provided employment opportunities to people who needed jobs. TV and newspaper ads spread the word. At first, not everyone knew the impact they could make.
And they said, if you go to school, I'm fresh out of school, I ain't but 19 years old, we'll pay you to go to community college. We'll put you on a program. And while I was going to community college, I realized that the program, I was seeing on TV, the PERC administration, we're looking for people in the neighborhood.
The learning curve was steep.
Do you remember your first call as an EMT or as a paramedic?
I do. My very first day, I was stationed at 105th and Chester, the old 5th District Police Station, and George Washington called up, and then they check you in by telephone. He goes, "Hey, you're the new guy." I go, "Yep." He goes, "Need you to go to St. Alexis." I'm like, "Okay, where's that at?" He goes, "Where are you from?" I go, "Menor." He goes, "Okay, turn left out of the police department, go down to East 55th and turn left." And, unlike it is today, I was just told to report to work. I had never been in an ambulance before in my life. And I get in there and we get a call, and I go, "Okay," we get in the truck, and Brian's like, "Okay, call it in." I'm like, "Call what in? What, on the phone or what?" And I knew nothing. And first call was pedestrian hit by a motorcycle.
To be an EMS, the match has to be just right.
The kind of people that are drawn to EMS are very independent type thinking people. Some people know right away if they're in the training, and how they do so much training is advanced so much further than what it was in the 70s.
Going on a run in your own city was different.
Because once you got out of that truck, your uniform, your badge, what you represented totally made you somebody totally different, where the community looked at you differently, that you were a different kind of person coming to help them. And I think that was a big inspiration for all of us. Our ability to give back to our community, our ability to give back to the people that we worked with, lived with. Some of them were our friends. Some of them were people that we knew in the neighborhood. And now I'm taking care of you. I'm taking these hands, the skills that I've learned, and now I'm touching a life with them.
It was just remarkable to me how men and women from all type of communities worked together and supported each other and helped us be as good as we could be.
And I remember then I was just coming out of medic school. I was the medic, he was the EMT, and we had this big box with all that stuff in it. And I remember just carrying that into the bus station. And I looked up and I went, okay, what are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do here with this stuff? And people looking at you are the same people that lived in the neighborhood with you. Those were the same people that you went to school with, maybe. You knew their kids, but there was a different respect for you now in a uniform with a badge on, and then what you were doing for the community.
The early years of EMS were filled with creating programs that recruited and trained emergency medical technicians, the EMTs, paramedics, dispatchers, managers, and procured ambulances and equipment. The more the green trucks rolled out, the more calls came in. There was no 911 yet, but Clevelanders knew how to call for help.
People were given little stickers for the phones. This is before 911. So you had, I believe it was yellow and blue stickers that you could put on your phone. This is the number to call.
The years were also marked by City Hall budget challenges and disagreements over who would control EMS and lead the unit. The evolution and milestones of EMS in Cleveland can be measured through waves and periods defined by the mayors, commissioners, and signs of the time in medical advances. The Ralph Perk administration saw the start of EMS. Other milestones were achieved through the administrations. Each of the successive mayors is credited with contributing to the evolution of the emergency response unit, as well as making tough decisions on how to ask the team to do more, even if it meant less financial support, which often was the reality. But it would take yet another family tragedy to bring to the public's attention the need for improvements in Cleveland EMS.
The line stretched for almost 2 blocks, people waiting to get in to pay their respects to his young daughter who was killed.
On October 8, 1979, as she walked home from Oliver Hazard Perry's school, 9-year-old Molly Voinovich was fatally struck by a van. She was only 6 blocks from home. Her father, Ohio Lieutenant Governor George Voinovich, was days away from being elected the city's 54th mayor. The public's support encased the Voinovich family's graceful mourning and endless private grief.
She's going to be my motivation to really, something has happened to our family, and it's going to be an inspiration to me to reach out and to try and really do a job for the people of Cleveland.
When Voinovich took office, national and international standards of ambulance service and care had already been established 135 miles away in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
They were Black, they were trained, and they were keeping people alive.
The Freedom House Ambulance Service, recognized as the first emergency medical service in the country and entirely staffed by African American paramedics trained with more than basic first aid, was founded in 1967. Again, the service grew out of a need to get people to the hospital faster, but in this case, it was created to serve Pittsburgh's underserved Hill District. Yet again, another family tragedy would be key to Cleveland's EMS history, but this time in Pittsburgh.
I graduated from Fifth Avenue High School in June of 1965. I was 17. I came home from work, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and found my mom on the floor of where we lived. I called the police. I didn't know what to do. And 2 police officers showed up. And I said, you need to take her to the hospital. And they said, no, she was drunk. I said, my mom doesn't drink. You got to take her to the hospital. And they said, we're not taking her to the hospital. I picked my mom up. I carried her down the stairs outside, and I put her in the back of the paddy wagon because the doors were open. I saw the 2 police officers talking to the nursing staff after they brought her into the ER and put her on a stretcher. And I know they told them that she was drunk. We sat in the hallway for over 45 minutes before anybody came to check on her. My mom died 5 days later from a cerebral hemorrhage. A preventable circumstance had they reacted more aggressive. I did not like hospitals. I did not like emergency departments.
That changed after a stint in the Air Force and opportunities to train as a medic.
I ended up going to Dover, Delaware, and dealing with people who were being brought back from Vietnam and taking care of veterans, as well as working in the emergency departments and working on med-surgical floors and all that good stuff. And that's how I got involved in emergency medicine. For me, running EMS, Freedom House was so special. I got involved as the operations manager of Freedom House, but primarily I enjoyed being a paramedic. I got to the point where I liked taking care of people. That when I show up, you're going to be okay. I'm going to take care of you. You're going to survive. I'm not going to let anything happen to you.
The connection to Cleveland occurred when George Voinovich recognized the need to bring in an administrator to run EMS in a different way and hired Mitchell Brown. He would become the city's first EMS commissioner.
He attempted to recruit me from the University of Pittsburgh in 1979. And I have to tell you, I said no to him twice. First and foremost, people from Pittsburgh don't go to Cleveland. That's just understood. I went back home to Pittsburgh and I did some research. And the research showed me that Mayor Voinovich's daughter was involved in an accident. And I don't know the complications associated with it, but there's a good possibility that she could have survived had EMS responded appropriately. And the mayor never mentioned that to me, not once. And I said, this guy's a special person. I said, if he calls me again, I'm going to take the job.
Brown served not only as the city's first commissioner, but also as the first public safety director, and later as Ohio's public safety director, all under George Voinovich. What challenges did you find when you arrived in Cleveland?
The challenges were multiple. First and foremost, there was a lack of training. There was issues with regards to vehicle maintenance. There were issues with regards to who had been hired. There was issues with regards to medical direction. There was issues with regards to all the different hospitals because they all thought that they controlled the city's EMS system.
You could find evidence of Brown's experiences at Freedom House and his creation of groundbreaking first responders training reflected in his time running Cleveland EMS.
And we made a difference. And it's how you convey those messages to different people. Not only being able to talk to doctors in their language, in the way in which they would understand, but also be able to communicate to the citizens in the street and to show a healthy respect. Not be condescending when you talk to them, but to show a healthy regard for who they were. It didn't matter if it was a drug addict, or if it was some influential individual business person, you treat them all the same. And that made a lot of difference. Then when Freedom House closed, I didn't get the job to run the city. Disappointing. Was it race issue involved? Yes. Was it politics involved? Yes. So I had to take my skills and develop things in Pittsburgh. And we developed first the Emergency Medical Services Operations Center, which became the Center for Emergency Medicine, training for physicians, nurses, and paramedics.
In Cleveland, he was known for his success in cultivating relationships with hospital leaders, city officials, including fire and safety, and all levels of the community to ensure EMS's progress.
It was gaining the respect of the community about the fact that these people were capable of taking care of the citizens in the city of Cleveland. And that was really, and people began to appreciate that. Not only did the community begin to appreciate it, but other public safety forces began to appreciate what they brought to the table. And that was really, really important.
You were just as likely to see him at city council as on an ambulance run.
When you go and ride with them and be on calls with them and then hold them appropriately accountable for the way they would take care of someone. In my world, the one thing you did at all costs was take care of the patient. If you didn't treat a person properly, you had problems with me. And that was not something anybody wanted to have.
Mitchell Brown would prove to be a game changer, setting the pace for future eras of EMS commissioners and the unit's culture in Cleveland.
I was in the field for 5 years, and then Mitchell Brown appointed me to run the educational section. And I think, if you look at the agency, we struggled really up until 2000. We struggled with the response time issue. We were one call away from being on the news. And I spent the better part of my career trying to defend the agency in light of long response times. And it wasn't because people weren't doing their job. It was we were always under-resourced. A lot of what we were doing was foundation building, because we were doing management classes and things like that, looking at it today, I think about the things we were doing was so rudimentary, but it didn't exist until we did it.
And it literally was a day-to-day battle. You had two well-established divisions within the Department of Public Safety. Police and fire go way back, right? I mean, it's back to horses and wagons and things like that. And you have this newer kind of concept where we're going to bring medicine to the streets. Our colleagues in public safety in the beginning, they would not have nice things to say about us when we showed up. You guys are playing doctor in the streets. Put them in the ambulance, get them to the hospital.
A lot of what EMS does, it is trauma care, it's pre-hospital care, but a lot of it is social work care. And that's a big component of what we do. It's taking care of the residents when they don't know who to call. And it may be something as simple as a baby crying and a mom needing help with changing a diaper. So that's where EMS is extremely unique, I think, and the services that we provide to the citizens. It's not just about medical care, it's about compassion.
Just advocating for those that couldn't necessarily advocate for themselves. One of my greatest frustrations always was people kind of diminishing those, lower level calls of why are you calling? Don't see it says emergency on the side of the ambulance. That's what I love so much about working at Cleveland EMS, because the focus really was to take care of everyone and meet everyone at their level. So I got a great sense of satisfaction about that. And I think that's what drove my career all along in keeping that focus in whatever role that I've had. But I'm not sure you can necessarily teach advocacy and compassion and empathy. And so in identifying the right kind of candidates for this position, that's where I always kind of focused on.
Nothing prepares you, I think, for that first accident you're on when it's a little bit chaos and there's people running around and they obviously expect you to take charge. So I think the first call in those types of situations, it's daunting. And to have the right people helping you, because we don't go out alone the first call, you're with a team that's training you, and the accident, and it definitely was an eye-opener, but you realize, like, wow, this is what I'm here for.
City records show EMS response times have improved over time.
I would have come and worked here for free just for the opportunity to provide care, because it was just, it was the beginning. We came in at a time when the people who were injured or ill were being transported to the hospital by the Cleveland Police Department, and they didn't have the resources. They had a cot and an oxygen tank, often empty. They would just basically put people in the back of the vehicle and transport them over to the hospital, and not much care, if any, was being provided.
The healthcare system in this country is daunting for anyone. Those people in the community that we were serving, I always looked at that was our responsibility to advocate for them.
And we, I think, educated them the right way, so that when they went out, they really did decent work. And that wasn't always what we were seeing from people coming from outside programs. So I think we created the structure, but again, the foundation had been laid with Mitchell Brown.
The Radio Emergency Dispatch, or RED Center, is the nerve center of Cleveland EMS.
Well, when we first came on, like I said, the Greater Cleveland Hospital Association, CMED, they handled all our call taking and dispatching, and that's really the heart of your operations. That what controls all the ambulances, where they're going, how the calls are coming in. And at the time, Commissioner Mitchell Brown was really uncomfortable with the situation where we had an outside group handling the heart of our operations. So, he petitioned the city and worked on the political side of things, and was able to make it happen, where we created the RED Center and controlled our own call taking and dispatching.
RED Center to Cleveland Medic 22. We arrive at headquarters. Can you take in your monitor, please?
We walked into this highly technically advanced center today.
Right.
But when you started, what was it like?
Conveyor belts and IBM cards. These were handwritten cards that were generated and went to the dispatcher on a conveyor belt. And it was very, very difficult. You had 12 ambulances out there, and you had magnets and cards, and you're trying to track in your head the location of all these ambulances. So it was highly stressful, very difficult, and so glad that we have the automation we do today to give these folks the tools they need to be really comfortable with their job.
What was your first call like?
So I don't remember exactly what the call was, but I do know the feeling. My heart was pounding. I just felt so nervous that I have someone's life now in my hands. And that was the scariest time I ever had. It was exhilarating too, to know that at the end of that call, that I did something to help someone.
What do you think makes a good EMS dispatcher?
I think one of the key qualities is teamwork. That with dispatching, it is a complete team. You have to be a great listener. You have to be a great communicator. You have to be able to work as a team and as a one unit, because we're working with multiple things. We're working with the police department, the fire department, the paramedics in the street. We're talking to people at the hospital. So it's a complete effort as a team. And I think that's one of the most important parts of being a dispatcher is the teamwork.
How do you get callers in a time of maybe the worst moment in their lives to trust you when they call and you're on the other end?
When you speak with confidence and you let them know that I'm here to help you and I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. So the dispatchers are an integral part of life-saving situations because we're giving life-saving instructions.
A call years ago when I was working on the dispatch floor, I had a person that was actually choking on an orange, and his family called and they were in a panic, and he literally was a larger man from what they described on the phone. So getting their arms around him to do the Heimlich was nearly impossible. He passed out. They got him down on his floor. I was able to give them instructions on doing the abdominal thrust. When the unit got there, he was sitting up. and he was breathing. They got the orange out, and I actually received a Lifesaver Award from Mayor White at the time for that procedure. The family was very thankful, but I was really, that was like probably the best feeling that I'd had in this job, was knowing that I actually made a difference, not only for the patient, but for his family as well. So
congratulations on that award. I can still hear it in your voice. I can still hear that emotion in your voice.
I always think of it. When I come to work and when I have those days, because some days you do have those days when you feel down, when you know that the outcome was not positive, it still helps me to know that there are times when I have made a positive impact. Doesn't always go right, but when it does, it makes you feel really good.
I have to ask you, how do you support each other as team members when sometimes the result of a call is not the outcome any of us would have wanted?
We also have peer support, a program that the union has that we could call people to come up and talk to them when they need to offload or something. We also have chaplains that come around when there's a major incident that happens. They always come up and check in with the dispatch center. I've had incidents where they've pulled me in here and I just needed to unload. So there's lots of programs in place that we have to help each other, to support each other.
Cleveland EMS rolls out today, staffed with a paramedic and EMT or 2 paramedics. The level of care over the past 50 years has leaped forward.
When I started, the equipment we used to put a breathing tube in was a little tiny light bulb on the end of a metal blade. Now we can do it under video scope. So you have a very bright picture, it's under pristine video. You would see things that were being done in the hospital, and you would think, why can't they be done here? And through the years, that has become much more of a mindset. It's away from, oh, it doesn't matter. They're only 5 minutes from a hospital, to now one of our things is we're giving blood. Even though we may be only a few minutes from the hospital, it's been shown that for every minute that blood is started, increases their survivability exponentially. So it's not always how close you are, it's how quickly people get procedures or medications. And it doesn't have to be in the hospital environment, it's a continuum of care for our patient now.
The impact and evolution of 911 cannot be overstated. It is where the wheels start turning for help. When someone dials 911, what did they used to say and what do they say now?
Well, initially we said, what's the problem? Oh, your house is white, turn the light on and we'll send someone. We verified the address and the phone number, of course, because we had, like I said, the enhanced 911, and then also get whatever quick information we can get because it was high call volume and we didn't have a lot of script to go on. Now we have a interrogation program that is scripted. In addition to finding out what the problem is and categorizing it, we can do pre-hospital instructions, pre-arrival instructions. We can assist the person with doing CPR, delivering a baby, doing bleeding control. All of those things came with the technology that was developed to make sure that the patients got the proper response in addition to personnel and equipment responding to their scene.
There have been 5 medical directors over Cleveland's Department of Public Safety, including Dr. Thomas Collins, who served more than 2 decades. He saw many changes as the paramedics and EMTs practiced under the umbrella of his license for 26 years.
Well, it was people who weren't nurses, weren't doctors. The in-hospital medical community really didn't have a good idea of the training that the EMTs and paramedics went through to get them to this high level of performance. And so they were a little skeptical. And it really is okay that they're skeptical because that really forced EMS to be on their top game all the time. And especially in this community, I think the health systems learned very quickly that the quality of care that EMS was delivering was very high quality of care. And our crews didn't really have a choice because that's what our patients needed.
He expected progress from Cleveland EMS, and he witnessed it.
I'm not surprised because they have always embraced doing things that help the patients. I think it's just phenomenal that we can take these life-saving therapies, whether it's for a medical illness or trauma, these life-saving therapies that have been proven to help people in hospitals, and then bring them even closer to the patient in their homes or on the roadside when they're having the medical emergency. Things like 12-lead EKGs, which used to have to be in the hospital to get this special EKG that allowed a broader look at the heart for heart attack patients. You used to have to wait to get to the hospital before getting one of those. And now we're doing them at someone's side 4 or 5 minutes after they call 911. And that helps activate this whole cascade of care in the hospitals and in the cardiac cath labs to get those patients the therapy they need. But something as simple as checking someone's glucose, which seems so for granted now in 2025. When EMS started doing that, the hospitals were questioning, are you doing it right? Is it a correct number? But very quickly, our EMS practitioners proved to the medical ER community that they knew what they were doing, and the patients were in very good hands.
Dr. Jeremiah Escajeda is the current medical director.
Cleveland EMS has consistently met the needs of a community of patients. No matter what that need is, no matter where that need is, no matter what time of day that need is. And as we advance as a specialty and technology gets greater and our communication modalities get greater, I think there's a lot of potential where we can meet a lot more of those needs that traditionally were not seen as the responsibility of EMS, and focus in on those aspects of EMS care. Not just the medical emergencies like the heart attacks and the trauma and the stroke, but the other things. I don't have power and I don't have insulin because my refrigerator isn't working. How can we impact patients like that? So there's a big potential for different community interventions like that.
Another initiative will be continuing to recognize the stress and supporting the mental health of EMS workers.
It's okay to have feelings after these calls. It's not something you just have to bury down and just hop in the truck and do the next call. And allowing them to verbalize their feelings about it. I don't want to say struggles, because it may not be a struggle, but it may be an emotion. It may be a feeling that is worthy of sharing with others. If you're human, you all have times that you struggle, and that's okay. It's not a flaw to be bothered by something, to be sad about something. And then a shift goes by in the ER where we don't have patients that we feel a little sad about because of the tragedy that they're experiencing. And sometimes healthcare providers, EMS providers feel guilty about how it impacts them because they know it's much worse for the person that was in front of them. So it's really good, though, to see that this is something that we're allowing to be part of our normal discussions, our normal cadence of how we are.
Current Commissioner Orlando Wheeler started his EMS career as a paramedic.
And we had a career fair and went there, and I was teaching all the children, and I taught a group of fifth graders how to do it. And I taught them how to do CPR, and they were very proficient at it. And then that right there, it changed everything for me, because this is what it was about. Giving back to the community, teaching individuals how to interact in an emergency situation to sustain life until the ambulance arrives. And I'm thinking, if I can teach fifth graders how to do it, then this right here can't be that hard. And this right here is something that we need to spread throughout the city. And from there, I was hooked.
He sees EMS as community wellness. He says life-saving begins before you activate 911.
When you see someone's in distress, whether it's uncontrolled bleeding, whether they're not breathing at all, or they are in full cardiac arrest. The things that you do from that point when you notice the emergency happening, that makes all the difference.
He has a wish list for his division as it enters year 51.
I'm proud to be a part of that evolution from 94 till now.
What's in the near and far future for Cleveland EMS?
Well, the near future, the automated ventilators. Like what I envision for the future is something like critical care. Critical care where you can have a more rounded response to certain incidents, where you would have maybe a nurse practitioner and a critical care paramedic that can provide a lot of the same interventions that happens in the ER, so that reduces people's stay in the hospitals and increases people's survivability even more. But that's a dream of mine. Don't know if it will ever come to fruition, but it's something that I've explored. And I started exploring whole blood back last June. And this June we started whole blood, almost a year to the date that I started exploring it.
He also wants to focus on building a community outreach program, taking paramedics right to the neighborhoods to educate residents.
Overall wellness is just not about reacting to that emergency. It's about how you eat, how you sleep, the things that you do. If you smoke, if you drink, eating healthy, and cardiac health. These are all part of the overall community wellness. And this is what we've been focusing on. And we've been seeing some good returns in our investments in the community.
How do you feel when you hear sirens?
These are the heroes. These are the people that are taking care. I've seen it. I've had that experience. And they're almost like walking angels.
Yeah.
They're doing God's work. And wherever they're going, you know that wherever they end up, they're going to be saving a life. And so that's how I feel. I'm never afraid to hear a siren.
Folks who know me say, I drove past your fire station, Brown. It's cool. I'm glad to see that, man. I'm happy. And so it makes me feel very, very good.
You are a big part of the first 50 years of the City of Cleveland's emergency medical service. How does that feel?
It feels very, very good to know that we have sustained the level of care in the city of Cleveland. One of the things that is a more special part of all that is the lime green ambulances. When I first got there, I said, why lime green? And nobody could really tell me. So I found an ophthalmologist. And he said, it's the most prominent color that you can see no matter what the weather conditions are. If it's sun shining, you can still see the lime green. If it's raining, you can see the lime green. If it's snowing, you can see the lime green. So I said, guess what? We're going to keep it. And today, they still have the lime green ambulance. And everybody knows that the EMS is responding with the lime green ambulance.
And everybody knows that it's the City of Cleveland, too.
And everybody knows the City of Cleveland EMS. And they know they're there to help. No other objective other than to take care of somebody. That's pretty cool.